Hello wrestling fans, thank you for joining us here today for our live wrestling roundtable. This is a first of epic proportions. With me today are the roundtable panelists. We have Eric Acefalo. I'm sure you see his mug every Tuesday.
Wrestling fans, it's me.
You're probably familiar with that. Then we have Josh. He's been with us from the start of the wrestling roundtable. He's one of our chief anchors. He does a very good job. And we got Chad over here. He's kind of new to the roundtable. Been with us a couple months, but he's our newest member. But kind of run things down every Thursday at 7 a.m. You can tune in to 7poundbag.com, where we will answer all questions related to the world of professional wrestling, past, present, or future. We have a lot of fun doing it. Unlike a lot of the other roundtables on the site, no disrespect to anybody, we all work together. You know, we don't. Like the baseball roundtable that I'm a part of as well, the basketball one which I run as well, we don't know anybody. I know Chad, that's about it. So we have a lot of fun with this, and we do this just for you fans because you bring it, you bring us, you know, the feedback, and we really appreciate that. So just to kind of go over what we're going to do today, we've kind of a couple questions where, you know, general realm of professional wrestling. It's going to be kind of a roundtable discussion. We'll go around and tell you all what we think about your thing, and you know, hopefully you like it, and we'll keep trying to do this every so often. We'll probably do it monthly, maybe every 2 months, and have a good time with this. Again, my name is Steve Hall, in case I probably didn't introduce myself, did I? That's all right.
Everybody knows who you are.
So. Everybody knows me, unfortunately. All right, so first of all, we're going to go around the table, kind of a general feedback. What have you done? When was your earliest memory of wrestling? When did you start getting into wrestling? Eric, we'll start that with you.
All right. Well, wrestling fans, it's me, Eric Acefalo from the Wrestling Roundtable.
Had to throw that in.
Of course, it's my main catchphrase for my videos every week. You can see on our YouTube channel, you know, Wrestling Roundtable. You can also remember like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, all that kinds of good stuff.
And who cares about Google Plus?
Exactly. Nobody does Google Plus.
Or iPhones, for that matter.
Exactly. And then you
no
got
iPhones in this box.
Well, then you got the few, you know, the one person that bought, you know, the Amazon Fire phone, but, you know, not going to point fingers, but, you know, it's because of him that they're making a fire too, so.
Hey, for your
accidents happen, right? So.
As for your earliest memory,
my earliest memory, I would say, would be I was 3 years old, and there's actually home movies I found of me being younger and watching wrestling. My earliest memory I can remember back would be Christmas when I was 3 years old, and I got the $1 Million Man wrestling buddy, and I started singing his entrance music while I was unwrapping on Christmas morning. That's on a home movie, but there's older home movies when I was like 2, and we're putting up the Christmas tree, and my mom and sisters are sitting there decorating the tree, and I'm actually just standing there because I'm watching Superstars of Wrestling because I'm so amazed by it. So.
I'll say Josh, what about you?
I remember watching wrestling at an early age. My dad would watch it with my sister and I. I remember watching the guys, Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, right? IRS, Hall of Fame for Mike Rotunda.
We'll get into that a little bit later.
Hashtag Rotunda for Hall of Fame. Get it trending, folks.
2016.
But I remember watching it as a kid growing up. One of my earliest memories, along with that, is my sister, who was 2 years younger than me. I was 6 at the time; she was 4. She tried to tackle me, and I clotheslined her. I got in trouble. It was hard. That was when I started my heel turn.
For those of you who don't know, Josh Frosh, and as far as Brian, who tweeted me that tweet earlier about who Frosh is. This guy right here, that's Frosh. That's his heel name.
Hashtag heel Frosh. And I remembered watching it, and then I actually stopped watching it when I got into middle school. I pretty much missed the entire Attitude Era. That was...
That's part of the reason why he's such a heel now.
That's part of the reason I'm such a heel now. I started back in about 2000 or so. Kurt Angle was one of my favorite guys. And then now WWE Network has got me, and as well as, you know, all the YouTube videos that you see has got me caught up on all of that and all that stuff.
I'm just curious, how much is the network?
It's $9.99. And it was free for the month of April.
Only if you didn't already have it.
Exactly, but out of the 1 point however million subscribers there are, it's only $9.99 a month, and it can be billed to your debit or credit card.
Monthly.
Okay.
Good. Well, my earliest memory, I was probably about 6 or 7 years old. It was WrestleMania 4. Remember, I begged my mom to let me purchase WrestleMania 4. I don't know why. My brother got me into wrestling around WrestleMania 3, and begged her. WrestleMania 4 was $19.95. I will never forget that. I think there's a particular boxing event coming out, it's like $100. But anyway, we won't go there.
WrestleMania 31 was only $9.99.
That's true. That is true.
Only a certain amount more if you buy it yourself.
But I remember, I've never been a Hulk Hogan fan. Those who know me know that. I despise Hulk Hogan with a passion. And when Randy Savage won WrestleMania 4 for that tournament, I became an instant Macho Madness. It's outstanding. I remember that. I'll never forget that. And during the tournament as well, I ended up going outside and flying a kite across the street in the middle of the show, which really pissed off my parents because it was on the living room on that little cable box, and they had to watch it. And I was outside flying a kite. We had to record it on a little beta machine. If you guys remember that, as you might be too young to remember a beta machine, but
I've heard it mentioned on The Simpsons. That's a different round.
What about you, Chad?
Well, for me, probably got started a little bit later than the rest of the round table here. Probably about junior high, so about 99. That was when I really started getting into it. I'd watch it here and there. In 98, had a cousin come up from Texas. They were moving up, so before they got cable, they'd come over and watch it. I kind of watch it, but not necessarily really pay attention to what was going on until they're about 99 with the Attitude Era. So kind of feel lucky there. That's when I started.
What was your earliest memory?
For me, one of the earliest ones we had, he was a diehard WWF fan, but he got a phone call that there was a match happening in the Georgia Dome one July night in '98.
Hulk Hogan got beat
by one Bill Goldberg. Yes. So
thank us, good Lord for that.
Yeah.
And a few times Hulk Hogan put somebody over, by the way.
Probably wasn't his choice.
I mean, to be fair, nobody puts Goldberg over. Goldberg puts Goldberg over.
Just like Marty Biggs.
Exactly.
To be fair, Goldberg didn't know about 3 days beforehand, but
and Goldberg didn't know about Marty Biggs either.
Well, nobody knows about Marty.
Inside joke, fans. Awesome. Well, let's get into the regular questions. That some of these were actually given to me by fans through Twitter. Some of these I just kind of woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning and thought, hey, let's do a question. We work day and night for you guys. So Chad, we'll start with you this time. Shawn Michaels, back in 1998. He had that big back injury, wrestled his last match, so to say, at WrestleMania 14
right.
against Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then he went on a hiatus.
Correct.
As it pertains to Triple H, if Shawn Michaels never got injured back in 1998, would he be in the same position as he is in now? Like, meaning, would he have gotten a run? Would he have been COO eventually?
Now, as far as the Triple H's run goes, I don't know if he gets the COO at that point, because I definitely do think Triple H versus Shawn Michaels happens earlier than 2002. I think, I was thinking about the question a little bit. To me, it just seems like those two kind of co-leading DX have really led to some friction, and to Triple H maybe versus Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam or later on that year. Depending on how it's booked, of course. And I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I think eventually maybe you get Triple H over. Maybe one time on Shawn Michaels, kind of a rivalry situation. I think he still kind of winds up by 99, it's kind of where he's at. They're kind of part of the corporate ministry there, getting to the title there about mid-late 99.
And I don't think he would be. I mean, I think he would have gotten a run. I think he was prime at King of the Ring 97 when he became King of the Ring. His run was originally scheduled for 96, but the whole Click incident, that just derailed everything for him. And, as they always say, somebody had to be punished. But I think ultimately you would have seen Triple H as a multiple-time world champion. Absolutely. I don't doubt that for a minute. Because they were priming him, they were gaming him to be the game. No pun intended. However, I agree with Chad. I don't think he would be the COO if he was today because they would not. I don't think he would have been in the storyline as the McMahon Helmsley era. I think he still would have been affiliated with Shawn Michaels in one way or another. While I think Shawn Michaels was on his way on the downward part of his career, I think DX was still there, and I think not that it would hold him back, but I think it would have altered his path. He would have been a world champion. He would have been a great athlete. I mean, probably being behind the scenes, doing some kind of a agent or something with WWE after his wrestling days were over. But I don't think he's in the story with Stephanie. And with that, I don't think he marries Stephanie. So overall, I think Shawn Michaels' back injury really changed Triple H's life.
I can definitely see that. It's always hard to tell with these where, the butterfly effect. One ripple happens and the entire course of history is changed. But I'm a firm believer that cream will always rise to the top. I have a firm believer had the Click incident not happened, Steve Austin still would have become a superstar.
Absolutely.
I agree.
I'm a firm believer that had Shawn Michaels' back injury not happened, Triple H still would have been a superstar.
Absolutely.
And he would have been a top guy in the company, whether heel or face, most likely heel, that's what he's more known for. But he would have been a top guy in the company. Being that, he would have still had exposure to the fans.
He was an awesome heel.
Awesome.
Still is today.
But he may not have been in the direct, marriage storyline with Stephanie, but he still would have had the exposure. They still would have met. And I still think that would have ended up happening.
But think about that. He even says in his King of Kings documentary, he states that, or Stephanie stated actually, they never really knew each other until they were in that storyline.
Right. But another storyline would have happened. Had Shawn Michaels not been injured, Triple H still would have become a superstar. He still would have surpassed Shawn Michaels.
I can see that.
And
Possibly.
And that would have opened up the possibility for other storylines involving Stephanie, perhaps a coup to unseat Vince, or any number of ways to book that.
Would you even see Stephanie in the position? I mean, obviously she would have been some kind of a upper management echelon, but I'm not even sure you'd see Stephanie McMahon in a TV role, because they really put her on TV with The Undertaker, remember back in '99?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Where they hung her on the cross or whatever, they crucified her. I don't think we're going to see much more of her. I really don't. I mean, I think that his injury really paved the way for not only Triple H, but Stephanie McMahon.
I really do think that Stephanie would have continued to be on TV because Shane was trying to get away.
In what role, though? I mean,
Stephanie would have been the authority role because Vince would not want to sell his company to anybody other than somebody that's a McMahon. And he knew that Shane probably, he could tell that Shane didn't want it, but Stephanie, he can tell, would want it. He would keep Stephanie on it. Stephanie would have continued to be on TV, I believe. And I think that Triple H, had Shawn Michaels not gotten injured, I think they would have eventually broken DX up and, would have made Triple H look like the heel as Shawn Michaels since he was the leader. Triple H would have been, they would have played up the storyline like, here, I'm in the shadows of you, I'm never going to be over you. So it would have propelled Triple H as a heel. I think he may have gotten his heel pushed sooner if Shawn Michaels hadn't been hurt, because I think they would have broken up DX. But at the same time, though, if Triple H gets his heel pushed sooner, we don't see DX, with X-Pac and Road Dogg and Billy Gunn in China. So with not seeing DX like that, you got to think, does that, hurt the Attitude Era? Because DX, they were one of the biggest stars during the Attitude Era when they had, X-Pac, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, China, and Triple H. So if Shawn Michaels doesn't get hurt, if they break up DX, then Triple H goes on to be a monster heel earlier in the career, and then never has his run with DX. So.
and DX, I mean, really, credit to Triple H, they could have folded right then and there after Shawn got hurt. But it was Hunter's idea to take DX and move them and just say, let's expand, let's take this. It's worked, let's go.
Let's make it the Army.
And I think Triple H really booked himself into the position he is in today. I mean,
I think he's still good about that.
COO, I don't know.
Maybe, maybe not. But again, like I said, I still think Cream rises to the top. Triple H would have been a major personality. Stephanie McMahon to answer your question from earlier, she absolutely still would have been on TV because when we talk the best heel talkers in the business, she's in top 5. No question.
Kind of talking about, I mean, with Triple H, kind of off topic here, but do you think Triple H generated any heat by marrying Stephanie McMahon? Do you think his role was manufactured in a way?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
I mean, I agree with you. So, quick question. I mean, I just want to go around the table here. Yes or no? Would you have been CEO?
No.
I say no as well.
I think there's a still likelihood it would happen.
I agree with Josh.
All right, so 2-2. That's why we debate. All right,
And since I'm the one that said it probably would have happened, that's the right one.
I'm going to move this over here because I'm afraid he's going to hit me over the head. All right, big discussion. That was a good discussion, guys. One discussion that I'm sure we're going to take a lot of time to discuss: the unification of the Intercontinental and the United States Championship. I don't like the idea to unify both titles. They've done it before with Edge and Test. They unified both titles.
But you can't. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
All right, I'm not being jumped the gun here.
Yes, you are.
All right, but anyways, my big thing with that is you can't compare that though, because that was part of the storyline. Because there was only supposed to be one company, one champion at that time.
And then what did they do? They brought back the U.S. title.
Because they were trying to separate.
Because the brand split.
All right.
Yes.
Here's the thing. They're pushing that U.S. title like it's the greatest championship on TV, which I think it is at this particular time. The way Cena's running with this title right now, the U.S. Open Challenge is the best thing that they could do for that title.
Absolutely.
Daniel Bryan, on the other hand, unfortunately due to injury, he's not able to do it. He could have, and I really think he probably would have done the same thing with that title. They wanted to do that. I want to say, was it WrestleMania when all the IC champions came out? Bret Hart came out, Ric Flair came out, Bastion Booger came out. No, okay. But they all came out and they did the whole yes, yes, yes chant, and they thought that was the second coming of the IC title, which I think that is your number 2 title next to the WWE title. And some say the best wrestler on TV.
It's always been the working man's championship. You go back, you look at the history of the Intercontinental Champions.
Ricky Steamboat,
Randy Savage, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Jericho. Those are your working man's titles.
Albert. No? Tensai?
Well, must we throw China in there
We
too?
could.
I mean,
Big Show?
Big Show's
Guerrero,
Eddie Guerrero, that's a good one.
Benoit,
Cody
Kurt Angle,
Rhodes.
the name that shall not be named.
The Honky Tonk Man.
Honk Tonk Man.
You think he's the greatest Intercontinental champion of all time?
No.
See, I got Jericho on my.
I would have Jericho on mine.
I would have Jericho.
I like Jericho.
Maybe I can stick with Jericho.
To respond to your ridiculousness, though, you absolutely unify them.
Why?
They are the exact same title.
No, they're not.
They are a low mid-card title that's meant to give somebody a push. You don't need both of them. Unless you're going to do another brand split, Raw and SmackDown, you do not need both titles.
But I would be okay with that. I know we've discussed this kind of off camera and off air, but I know we've discussed this about if you bring back another title. I think having just 1, 2, 3 titles, other than the Divas title, obviously, that's not enough. You have too many superstars right now. Do you bring back the Cruiserweight title?
But here's my thing, and this has been said before by many great wrestling promoters. The more titles you have, the less importance they are. Back in the day, up until, 1997, you only had your 3 titles. You only had your WWE title, you had your Intercontinental title, and your Tag Team title. Those were the 3 titles. Granted, there was probably maybe a lot less wrestlers back then.
There's also the European title too, and then the hardcore title. They started bringing down these titles, and I like the European title myself, but I mean,
If you're going to have multiple titles, you need them to be in separate divisions. So, again, because the Intercontinental and the United States title are both heavyweight titles that are a mid-card title, they're the exact same division, they're almost the exact same thing. I know they have different histories, I'm not trying to diss one or the other, but they're the exact same title. So if you bring back a hardcore title, it is a different title, it is defended differently. It gives them something different to watch. If you bring back the cruiserweight title, it's a completely different division. Only the cruiserweights, the fast guys, the guys that can make moves and make us go, whoa. Those are the guys that are going to be fighting for that title. If you're going to do it, it'd be like having 2 separate tag team championships, as in 2 separate sets.
And they did that before, and that I don't think that worked at all.
With the brand split, it would work, but that's because you have 2 separate rosters.
Well, I think back then they were really stretched in for those tags, for the tag teams as well.
And they are today too. I think they're coming into their own with the tag team ranks.
They're starting to, yeah.
You know, and why they put the titles on a new day, I don't know. Hopefully to transition to Lucha Dragons.
Lucha, 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 Lucha.
I would like to hear them talk at some point. I mean, they're cool and they can move around the ring. Kalisto is probably the most exciting thing since Rey Mysterio.
He is, but he's American. That's the only drawback. He's not really a luchador.
I'd still like to hear them actually talk.
Well, neither was Nacho Libre.
That's true.
Oh, sure.
But, okay, so you've been kind of silent on the whole IC title, US title. What do you think?
See, and I'm kind of one, I was kind of really on the fence about it. I mean, really thinking about it, I kind of agree. I mean, that I don't know about unifying them, but I think you need to modify one to say, or at least make one like a cruiserweight. Because I think, now granted you might not have a lot of guys, I mean you have a few guys right now. Neville coming up, I mean you could use Tyson Kidd in that role, kind of a Kofi maybe, in that kind of role for some high-flying, different types of matches.
Jamie Noble.
J&J Security.
But you got to look as well. I mean, NXT has a lot of guys that are cruiserweights.
That's true. That's true.
90% of the roster.
Yeah.
Kevin Steen, someone I can think of off the top of my head.
No,
He's a cruiserweight.
He's a cruiserweight?
I think so.
100 pounds.
Yeah, that's one thing about NXT. They don't have a lot of big guys. I mean, I'd like to maybe see some of those guys, a couple of those guys.
I may have been hearing things about when I was watching King of the Ring last night. And again, I was on the phone when I was watching it because I like to multitask at work.
Of course.
I thought I heard him being introduced as 160 pounds. No.
Sounds about right. I was playing the WWE
Video game.
video game last night, and I think that's about him.
I'd have to go back, but yeah, I mean,
That's about what Rey Mysterio was.
And he was a world champion. That gold belt was about up to his boots.
well, that's a whole other discussion there.
So
Go ahead.
All right, so here's my question. We unify which one of the two do we keep?
I see.
I think I see because it's strictly been.
WWE.
And it's got more history. It's got more history, more prestige to it.
But the U.S. title could go back to the NWA side.
That's
there
true.
is a lot of
that's
history
true.
and prestige there as well.
Then you can go back to Steve Mongo, McMichael hold the U.S. title as well, and David Flair hold the U.S. title as well.
Hey, David Flair was an amazing U.S. champion. I mean, if you put his U.S. title reign up against Tensai's Intercontinental title reign, I mean,
Maybe.
I mean, that's almost as good as watching.
For a little bit
best
there, I thought they
of
were going
WWE.
to put the U.S. title on Little Nate.
But that's backwards.
Al Snow, I don't care what anyone else says, Al Snow is entertaining.
Al Snow.
I mean, it's only running joke, I guess. But
Did you watch that tonight, or the Mankind, or anything? I haven't watched it yet.
I haven't watched it yet.
I think that's one I kind of have to pay attention to.
to stand up or.
All right, so again, going around the table. I mean, I say you don't unify them. I think I'm in the minority here, but we'll go around and say
Absolutely.
Most definitely unified.
I think you have to unify them to get a different type of belt in there for other guys to compete with.
all right. Well, 1 defeats 3, so that carries. Anyway,
All right.
no, I think that was the House of Cards. Did he do that? Frank Underwood
Yeah.
did his ring thing.
Yeah.
Table.
Anyway.
I think we should tap it 5 times because we're agreeing they're not playing.
5 times, 5 times, 5 times.
No, I was saying
5 second
like
count.
Big E's and 3 ain't enough, man. I need 5.
5 count.
Remind me of one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my WWE. When he was like, I'm the 5-time champion, Rob Van Dam just kind of stared at him and he goes, wow, you lost that championship 5 times.
That's what they're
So dry, and so the delivery was fantastic.
You know, remember we asked I think it was when you were running it. Maybe one of you two were. You need to run it sometime.
I brought it.
Did you? No, we didn't actually post it. You sent it to me and said, "Here, do it."
Well, it's not my fault the username wasn't ready yet.
It's ready now. But shh, here you go. They can log in. Anyway, I forgot what I was saying. I really
So it's somehow either me or Frosh.
Oh yeah, we talked about that. Son of a bitch. I totally lost my train of thought.
And we'll talk about something else.
It'll come to me.
I'll come about the last question here. So.
We like China was obviously the greatest Divas champion or women's champion of all time.
See, I'm just so upset that I got outvoted 3-1 on the unification. You think China's hot? You seen her sex tape?
No.
You wouldn't think she's hot after you saw her sex tape.
I didn't think she was hot before that. That woman was more manly than I was. Damn.
All right, next question. We're going to start with Josh here. It's kind of a thinking question. You have the ability to rebook any era, whether it be the 80s, 90s, even the current era. You can rebook it anywhere you want. Which era would you choose to rebook, and how do you do it? Would you have booked Hogan as long as they did? Would you have had a second stable to really challenge the Horseman? Just something like that.
Well, to answer that question, I would absolutely keep Hogan in his reign. I know you have issues with him, but the fact of the matter is that man is probably the most influential wrestler of all time. Personal issues and all that stuff aside, and in-ring capability aside, he is probably the most influential wrestler of all time. He brought WWE into the forefront.
I don't disagree with you. Okay? And coming up later, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, as far as, where he ranks on my top. But okay. So go ahead.
If I were going to rebook any era, I think there is one year I would rebook. And that year revolves around Diesel being the WWE champion.
94, 95?
94, 95. Because I think he's gone down as one of the worst drawing champions in history. And this is not anything against Kevin Nash. The man is a phenomenal talent. But I think at that point, because he carried that title, did he carry it for about a year?
Basically a year.
Almost a full year.
Survivor Series right after he beat Backlund and then lost the Survivor Series 95?
I think you could have carried it. I think you could have given other guys opportunities to win. Guys like Razor Ramon, Scott Hall. I think you could have.
He would have been a great champion. Just saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just saying.
Guys,
I'm not biased or nothing.
He needed one run, that man.
I mean, guys like, and I mean, honestly, we've been saying it, but IRS, the man deserves something at that point. You could have had, give us something different the entire, throughout that year. That way, maybe different things happen. WCW might not even get the start that it had. But I think that was the downfall of WWE leading up to giving WCW the amount of power it had, was that year with Kevin Nash where he's the less champion.
And I do agree with you. I mean, not that I'd rebook that era. However, and it's kind of interesting you mentioned this because one of the Ask 7 Pound questions that will be in the next round is basically stating, Mabel was a main eventer. Okay, Katie Mabel was a main eventer.
It's on his resume.
He wrestled Diesel at SummerSlam, and they asked him about were they planning on putting the title on Mabel. And I'll give you kind of a sneak peek. No, they had no plans of putting. They weren't going to drop the title to Diesel to nobody. There was nobody for him to feud against, other than Shawn Michaels, and they turned him face. Other than Sid, which they had about a 2 or 3 month thing with Diesel, and it just didn't draw.
The Bret Hart Diesel match at Royal Rumble
Awesome.
was amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And they were working that to get to that. Okay, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Do you put Bret and Diesel in a story prior to Survivor Series? Because it was pretty much just, hey, you're wrestling Diesel for the title. Go. With like, what, 3 weeks, maybe a month?
Yeah, well, when they had the In Your House before Survivor Series, Bret Hart was doing announcing because it was Diesel versus Bulldog for the title.
And the winner thought Bret Hart, yeah.
And Bret was doing announcing, and they kind of foreshadowed it a little bit and everything. Diesel came out, got knocked out of the ring. Bret, goes to hold him up. Diesel pushes him back and everything. So
So how do you rebook it?
I give, honestly, and you might laugh, drop the title to Mabel. I'm not saying that.
I really thought you were going to say Doink, but.
Well, Doink the Clown was a very deserving man of a championship. But in all seriousness, if you're going to push someone like Mabel and give him King of the Ring, why not drop the title, see what he can do? Because the man is an imposing presence, and he can move very well for the amount of size he had.
Sure.
He might have been able to, as a heel, been a foil for face Diesel. He might have been somebody who could transition from Diesel into another champion. Hell, Bam Bam Bigelow. If there is any man in wrestling who deserved a run with the major championship, it is probably Bam Bam Bigelow.
And he's never got a shot at an IC title, U.S. title, right?
He did put over Lawrence Taylor. Just wanted to throw that out.
Greatest WrestleMania of never.
I mean, you know, but how can you compare WrestleMania 11 to WrestleMania 27?
Oh God, that was so bad.
The only WrestleMania as well, strange fact, only WrestleMania where no titles changed hands was WrestleMania 27. You don't believe it? Watch it on the WWE Network for only $9.99.
WrestleMania 27 is also where we get in the history books that Snooki won a match at WrestleMania.
And Michael Cole won a match.
And Michael Cole defeated the legendary Jerry Lawler.
As upset as I was at the way that worked out, less upset about Snooki having a victory at WrestleMania. I am sorry.
What about the following year when Maria Menounos won a reunion?
Less upset than with Snooki.
Well, didn't she have like a stain on her pants during the middle of the match?
Probably.
I believe I did hear that story.
Yes.
It was actually from me backstage, but
You gotta do what you gotta do, right?
But back to like I said, I would have had him drop the title to Mabel, give Mabel a chance, see what we can do. Then that puts the title on maybe another face, such as Razor Ramon or Bret Hart is the one to beat Mabel, and just move things differently there. I think having an actual title change may have increased viewership and could have drawn it.
McMahon had high hopes for Diesel. I remember watching that. John and I studied a lot on that era. Obviously, you had those connections with those guys. You know,
Right.
Knowing Kevin the way how I do, knowing Scott a little bit, knowing Sean a little bit. And I've talked to Scott many times before about why he never got a shot at the world title. I mean, I can't remember him except for Royal Rumble, 93? He never really got a shot at a world title match.
Except for in WCW, he did
Yeah,
that
I think-
thing one time.
And Goldberg.
And I think he had like a triple threat, like with Sid and
Yeah,
Jeff on the thing.
But I mean, why he never got a run? I don't know.
Yeah, he never.
So would you give Scott a title run? I mean, would you think that would be in '95?
As
He was over in '95.
as over as he was, I absolutely think he deserved one. I mean, you give him a shot. Let's see what the guy can do with The Rock.
I think you could have really put a plan.
Not the way.
I think you really.
Not the Tooth Fairy, but
I really think you could have really put a program on. Have Scott Hall go over King of the Ring in '95. I mean, I think he got injured, if I'm not mistaken, but.
Maybe replaced by Savio Vega.
And I haven't gotten it out of him yet, but whether that was the plan or not, I don't know. But I think you could have had a hell of a match with Diesel and Razor. Maybe a rematch SummerSlam '94 for '95 and for the world title.
Diesel was definitely obviously bigger than Razor, but Scott Hall was definitely an imposing figure. What was he, 6'4",
6'5".
Yeah.
He's still a big guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still think that would have been a great match. I would have either possibly given it to Razor, given it to somebody else, give it to Mabel, whatever. Let's see what the guy can do. Less deserving men have been WWE champion or WCW champion.
Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon has been champion.
3 days.
All right. What would you rebook?
I would start in 1993, at WrestleMania 9. I do not think Hulk Hogan should have gone up.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Hulk Hogan, there was no reason for Hulk Hogan to go over. other than they did not want to see a heel lead WrestleMania just yet as the WWE champion. So, fast forward a little bit, we get to SummerSlam, go to the King of the Ring, Hogan doesn't go over, have Bret Hart win the King of the Ring. Have him and Luger in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament, and then you have Luger go over as the narcissist. And then, you have him and Yoko continue to feud at SummerSlam. And then at SummerSlam, you have Luger go over as the All-American, because he was no hotter than he was in 1993. And when he body slammed Hulk Hogan, or not Hulk Hogan, I apologize. When he body slammed Yokozuna, he was hot as can be. So you have him go over.
At SummerSlam?
Yes, you do. You have him go over at SummerSlam. And so he's, getting built up and everything. He's still, made in the USA like Luger. Then, instead of having the first and only time there's been co-winners of the Royal Rumble in 1994, you have Bret go over at the Royal Rumble, sets up the big match at WrestleMania between Bret Hart and Lex Luger for the WWE title.
I agree, you don't have to go around. And that was the most ridiculous thing. And I'm wondering if that was actually planned. I really think somewhere along the lines, through my connections, I don't know for sure, but I think there was more to it. I don't think they intended to have double flip over. I mean, they could. I don't know. Why anybody would book a co-winner of the Royal Rumble, I don't know. I mean, two guys hot as hell.
It's something different, a way to preserve both guys. They're both hot. They're both winning. You don't want one of them to necessarily be completely 100% above the other. So
and booking WrestleMania 10, I mean, it really gives WWE, I don't know if you agree, but it gave them a lot of options.
Right.
And I know for a fact the story changed as they approached WrestleMania 10. Because we all know who was supposed to walk out of WrestleMania 10 with that title. Lex Luger. It was supposed to happen, but he opened his mouth, he started giving out spoilers, and he got punished. Ultimately alienated himself with McMahon and got himself out of the WWE.
But here's my thing. If you watch WrestleMania 9, they're showing a highlight from I think it was like bagels, biceps, and brunch or something like that. It was like a breakfast beforehand, before WrestleMania 9. And Bret Hart is standing at the podium talking, and Lex Luger comes up and he knocks him out. Like, I don't know. Were they trying to schedule a feud between those two? And they just kind of...
Because they dropped it. They dropped it. I mean, after that, they talked about it, but you never really heard much about it after that. Until 1994. But then again, I think they moved him to be a face right after that, which, again, I mean, that whole thing with Luger, he's one of the biggest heels in the company, one of the biggest dicks in the whole company, and he comes out, and here he is in the USS Intrepid and body slams Yokozuna and just becomes the automatic American hero, which was a good character for him. Like you said, no one was more over than Lex Luger in 93, and someone 93.
I mean, he had the Lex Express. He was traveling across the country. I mean, I remember, being a kid, trying to watch WWE, so that way I would see it. If the Lex Express was going to come to Springfield, where I'm from, and hopefully, I would be able to go see it and go, wish Lex Luger good luck at SummerSlam.
What about you?
Well, with Eric totally sniping my idea there, having to rethink on my feet here. What I would probably redo 2007. Just because with Cena, the idea of Cena having a year-long title reign that started in 06 there just doesn't seem appealing to me. I do believe that the plan was to have Triple H get his victory back at WrestleMania that year against John Cena for the title, and Shawn Michaels got put in his place. I think, because he was kind of the lone wolf at that point, I would have put the belt on Michaels. I think it's kind of one last run kind of thing, because he had the brief run there in 02 with the world title, had chance after that, never really got it. Being a fan of Shawn Michaels' work, I would have liked to see one more run with the title there, especially without having Triple H there, to kind of run the DX with it.
How do you book Shawn Michaels as the world champion in 2007?
Well, I think definitely WrestleMania you have him go over. I think you can still do the fatal four-way that they did at Backlash that year with Edge and Orton. And I think you can still work that in there. And even if it's not a long title reign, if you have Orton maybe get the title in the summer instead of at No Mercy that year.
Who won Money in the Bank
That year,
No, that was Mr. Kennedy.
that was the
Kennedy,
that was the
Edge.
that was Kennedy which Edge took to SmackDown to get the world
that
title.
year? Right, but that's actually an interesting idea because Michaels wins the title. Let's say have Punk go over at Money in the Bank, win it that year. That sets up a Punk-Michaels feud. And granted, it towards the end of Michaels' career, but that's still something I think a lot of people would have loved to see at that time.
Well, and I answered this when we had the WrestleMania edition there. I think it would set up a feud that I think a lot of fans would have liked to have seen. I mean, like you said, Michaels was at the end of his career, but a lot of people, back in the day would compare Jeff Hardy to Shawn Michaels. And I think, especially with kind of the similar past they kind of have with the drugs they've had, drug issues, and all that stuff, and Michael's kind of be where he's at now. I think I could see it like a mentor thing where Jeff Hardy doesn't want to be mentored. I think something like that could play off. Could have played off, depending on how far you want to take it, of course, and what's a good take.
I would love to see the Jeff Hardy show. I think that would be.
I mean, we got it on Raw, but I would like to see like the full story just because of how similar they kind of are.
A Jeff Hardy young Shawn Michaels match would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Towards the end of his career, yeah, he was still putting on great shows at WrestleMania with Taker. But I mean, you could tell, as with all wrestlers, when they get to that age, they start losing a few steps. A young Shawn Michaels, circa let's say 95, 96, could have kept up with Jeff Hardy, and that would have been an amazing match.
Remember, the end of 95, he had that concussion.
And then you had the boy
They
who
lost the smile.
plus.
Could you imagine?
No, it was 97 he lost his smile.
Could you imagine taking a 1995 Shawn Michaels pre-concussion with Jeff Hardy in a ladder match?
Like a Jeff Hardy from like 2000, 2001. I mean,
that'd be epic.
that would be epic, and I think it's just one of those things. I mean, granted, when it would have happened, Michaels would have been older, but I think still 07 there, he was kind of, when Triple H went down, I almost do think his game went up a little bit. He did go out in the main event of WrestleMania, had a great match, I think a great match with Cena. And,
He puts on great matches.
yeah, I mean, right. I mean,
He gets a lot of. I mean, he gets a lot of guff from.
well, and I'm not saying he's a terrible wrestler, but I mean, back then it was still kind of, I mean, it wasn't as accepted yet. I
He's
mean,
got the springboard stunner now, so.
yeah, he's got that springboard stunner, so.
Amazing.
But I mean, back then I think we can all agree that, I mean, yeah, we know now he can work, he can, put on a good match. Back then it was still kind of, or at least the perception was out there, I should say.
He had really good matches with Booker T during his U.S. title run. His match with JBL was pretty good at WrestleMania. I mean, I think he was still putting on good matches.
Right, and no one's disputing that. I mean, it's more the perception. I think that the fans had that because of the 5 moves of doom.
That's the same problem Roman Reigns is facing right
It's the exact same problem.
But that man came to cut promo. John Cena could cut promo.
Yeah,
now. That's true.
I mean,
Rap promo,
The-
for sure.
Well, and then that brings up another thing. Roman Reigns, we don't know if he can cut a promo because everything I've ever read has said that Vince is writing Roman's promos. Like,
Probably.
personal.
At least he approves them.
All of the greatest guys at talking have always done it themselves. When you look at Stone Cold Steve Austin,
Paul Heyman.
Austin 316 was done on the clock.
Yeah,
You look at The Rock, Rocky Maivia was horrible, and then he became The Rock, and he did that himself. Roman Reigns right now is being booked as a Cena clone, and I brought this up. He has to step out from that. He's just another tough guy who wants to fight. We have lots of those guys. He needs something new and ring.
you need something different than hustle, loyalty, respect.
He doesn't have to go, and I've said this on the roundtable, he doesn't have to go full Attitude Era edgy.
Right.
But he needs something different, something with a little bit of bite to it.
Right.
Now, where I rebook, I'm going a little bit further than you guys rebook. You kind of know where I'm going with this.
No Hogan.
No. You put Hogan over in 84, 85, 86, and even 87. You have Andre take the title and give him a run with the title in 1987.
Talking in WrestleMania.
WrestleMania 3. That was the original plan, to give the title to Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. Due to back injuries, it didn't work out. Now, obviously, if you can go back in time, you fix his back, do whatever you have to do.
It was gigantism. It wasn't something that could be fixed.
Sure. I'm just saying, in a real world. I would put the title on Andre. You know, back then they didn't defend the world title like they do now. You know, Hogan, I don't think I ever remember seeing him on Superstars or Wrestling Challenge on Saturday or Sunday morning. I never saw him. And when you saw him, we're like, oh wow, Hulk Hogan's on TV. You could do that with Andre. You could give him a several-month run. You could have Hogan legitimately, you know, go over again, maybe Summer, maybe Survivor Series or something like that. WrestleMania 4. But I do like the idea of the tournament. I like how it's set up with Savage winning the title because late '87, Savage was the one getting over. You don't have Andre win the title in '88 the way he did with the controversy. Even though I thought it was hilarious when you got the Earl and Dave Hebner fighting each other. I thought that was funny. But that, to me, that just made Andre look like a bitch. He just, and he was probably the single greatest wrestler, you know, big guy wrestler of all time. You can't debate. I mean, you can debate it.
Yeah.
You could, but in my opinion, Andre was the guy. And I think being undefeated for 15 years.
So was Piper.
He was never undefeated though.
Piper, he had never been pinned or submitted until he lost to Bret Hart in WrestleMania 8. Every other time, like during all his feud with Hogan, he never got pinned.
There's DQ.
DQ,
You're right.
counted out. First actual pinfall loss he had was to Bret Hart at WrestleMania 8.
And you know, and I mentioned this before on that 7 pound. You know, people have asked me how Savage went from IC champion loss at WrestleMania 3 to where he was. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you guys know this or not. Savage won the King of the Ring in 1987. Before it was a pay-per-view. He was still the heel, but he got so much pop and circumstance, if I can no pun intended, that fans started to get to him, join him, and so with him and Elizabeth, thinking that hey, this is a power couple, they're incredible. And then the original plan obviously was to have Steamboat be the champion for a long time, but he wanted to be with his family, so Honky Tonk Man took the ball and run with it. The plan was